This is Homeschool 101, a collaboration between ABS Television and the Ministry of Education. Stay attentive and attempt all activities. And now, today's lesson.
Bonjour et bienvenue dans la classe de Homeschool 101, French Edition, avec moi, Mademoiselle Adams. Aujourd'hui, je discuterai beaucoup d'aspects de l'examen français et je vais essayer de vous préparer à l'examen français. At this time, I am going to introduce to you our students who are on virtually on Zoom. And as I said before, hello, welcome to our class, Homeschool 101, French Edition, with me, Miss Anique Adams. And today I'm going to discuss different aspects of the French exam, which should help you to prepare for the exam 2020. So, first off, I'm going to ask my students to introduce yourselves. Please, Amaya.
Salut, je m'appelle Amaya James, j'ai 17 ans et je suis élève au lycée Anique.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Melia Small, je danse.
Okay, thank you. Next person.
Salut, je m'appelle Daniel Sulston et j'ai 14 ans.
Merci. Next person.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Bradley Fléger, j'ai 17 ans.
Bienvenue et merci. Now to begin, I will give you an overview of the class and the French exam in case you would have forgotten. So first of all, the paper one. The paper one exam is the multiple choice exam, which is divided into two segments. First, we have the listening comprehension, and the second section is the reading comprehension. All components of this paper are multiple choice, okay? So students, be reminded, paper one is strictly the multiple choice paper, which is divided into two sections, the listening comprehension as well as the reading comprehension. Then we have our paper two exam, which is the free response paper. This paper is subdivided into four sections. Section A, which is the written directed situation. B, the letter writing section. C, the contextual dialogue. And 4, the reading comprehension. And I must remind you at this point that for the directed situation, you're not always required to write a full or complete sentence. Sometimes you may use interjections and other responses that may not require you to give a full sentence. Additionally, if you do write a sentence, you're only permitted to write one sentence. So do not put a full stop and then continue. You can use a colon or maybe a semicolon if necessary so that the examiner will know that you are continuing your idea. And the paper 3 is the final component of the CSEC French exam, and this is the oral exam. All right, the oral exam is subdivided into 3 sections. The first section is the situation section. The second section is the reading passage where you will read at least 120 to 130 words in French. And the third section is the guided conversation question. Okay? Now, in order to do these things, on a besoin des verbes high frequency. So what I just said is that in order for you to be able to maneuver and negotiate these aspects of the exam, you will be required to know high frequency verbs. What are high frequency verbs? These are verbs that are used every day, that are very popular, and that we use repetitively within the French language. So I'm going to make a list or give you a list of some high frequency verbs and also give you some additional expressions that we use them in. So the first verb that we're going to look at is the verb aller. Okay? And I'm sure everybody knows at this point that aller is the verb in French which means to go. So I'm going to conjugate it for you. And we have je vais, tu vas, il, elle, on va. Nous allons, vous allez, ils, elles vont. The second verb is the verb être, which means to be. And this verb conjugated in the present tense is je suis, tu es, il, elle, on est, nous sommes, vous êtes, ils, elles, on sont. The third verb that we need to be aware of is the verb faire. And this verb means to do or to make. In the present tense, we conjugate this verb as follows. Je fais, tu fais, ils, elles, on fait, nous faisons, vous faites, ils, elles, on font. All right, and the fourth verb, high frequency verb we're going to look at is the verb avoir. A-V-O-I-R. And this verb means to have. This is a very important verb for several reasons. Now we conjugate this verb j'ai, which means I have, tu as, which means you have, il, elle, on a, which means he, she, or one has, nous avons, we have, and vous avez, you have, that's the plural, referring to the plural, and il, elle, on, they have. Now this verb is very important because we use it to express age in French, and we also use it to express which part of the body is hurting us. The verb faire, I forgot to mention, is used in a variety of expressions. For example, faire une promenade, which means to go for a walk, faire des photos, which means to take photographs, and also, well, those two in particular. When we go to the next verb, mettre, which means to put, okay? This verb here is conjugated. It means to put, to place, or to put. This verb is conjugated. Je mets, tu mets, il, elle, on met, nous mettons, vous mettez, il, elle, met. The next verb we want to look at, and I'm going to change my screen, is the verb prendre. And this verb means to take. Bladley, I hope you remember this verb. Prendre means to take. It's conjugated je prends, I take. Tu prends, you take. Il, elle, on prend, he, she, or one takes. Nous prenons, we take. Vous prenez, you take. And il, elle, prend, which means they take. The next verb we want to look at is the verb pouvoir. Now, this is a very important verb. It means to be able to, or it can mean can. All right, so this verb is conjugated je peux, tu peux, il, elle, on peut, nous pouvons, vous pouvez, ils, elles peuvent. All right, and this verb is important because it is used, or it can be used to offer help. For example, in the question, est-ce que je peux vous aider? You may be in a situation where you're required to offer assistance, maybe for a situation, and they may ask you, you're in a store, and a customer comes to purchase an item. How do you offer assistance? You would use this verb, and you would say, est-ce que je peux vous aider? Which means, may I help you? Okay? And the second use of this verb is to ask permission. Several of the situations, whether it's in the oral exam or in the written exam, do require you to ask permission to do something. For example, your sentence could, or your answer could be something like this. Est-ce que je peux? Which means may I. For example, est-ce que je peux écouter de la radio? May I listen to the radio? And that may be the full and complete answer that you can give using this particular verb. Now the next verb is the verb devoir, which means to have to. Okay? To have to. Now this verb is conjugated je dois, tu dois, and that's spelled D-O-I-S. Il, elle, on doit, which is spelled D-O-I-T. So you must learn these verbs. There's a difference between the je and tu forms in comparison to the il and elle form. And then we get nous devons, vous devez, ils, elles doivent. And this verb can be used, for example, in the sentence, qu'est-ce que vous devons faire pour aider à la maison? What must you do in order to help at home? Okay? And you can respond, je dois XYZ. Je dois mettre la table. I have to set the table. Okay? Or je dois faire la cuisine. I have to do the cooking. Okay? The next verb, and we only have 10 of them, we're at number 9, is the verb vouloir. V-O-U-L-O-I-R, which means to want, or it can be used or translated as to wish. This verb is conjugated je veux, tu veux, and that's spelled V-E-U-X. Il, elle, on veut. Nous voulons, vous voulez, ils, elles veulent. And we can use it in this sentence or this question. Est-ce que vous voulez m'aider avec mes devoirs d'anglais? Do you want to help me with my English homework? So it's a very useful verb if you want to ask for assistance. Okay? And the next verb, which I need you to know, students, is the verb savoir, which means to know. And it doesn't just mean to know, but it means to know in terms of to know how to do something. I know how to cook, I know how to speak French, things of that nature. To know how to do something. Okay? And the other definition for this verb is can. So, when you want to talk about some known facts, you will use this verb. And it is conjugated je sais, tu sais, il, elle, on sait, nous savons, vous savez, ils, elles savent. For example, elle sait jouer au football. She knows how to play football. You can also use it in this sentence or this construction, je sais nager. I know how to swim. I hope you're following. And it's very important that you know these verbs. Now, there's another verb which has a similar meaning to the verb savoir, and this is the verb connaître. This verb also means to know, but we use it to mean to know a person or to be familiar with a place. Okay? So, you may know St. John's, you may know how to get around in Old Road or Freetown. So, these are the other usage of the verb connaître. And this is conjugated je connais, tu connais, il, elle, on connaît, nous connaissons, vous connaissez, ils, elles connaissent. For example, the sentence, il connaît bien Paris, which simply is translated as he knows Paris well. Okay? So this is your verb here, connaît, and the he, she part is spelled with T, and the je and tu is spelled C-O-N-N-A-I-S. So please be reminded to learn the differences in the je and tu forms in comparison to the il, elle, on forms, because they tend to be slightly different. Okay? Now, the second section of our class is dedicated to our verbs in terms of the tenses. So let me explain. What is a tense? Tense of a verb tells you when something happens, is happening, will happen, or has happened, or is going to happen. So that is what the tense of a verb means. It tells you the time period in which an action takes place. And we know verbs are the key components of a sentence because they're the action part of the sentence, which lets us know we're doing something. So it's important for us to pay attention to our verbs. Now, in French, we have several tenses, just as in English. These tenses, I'll begin first of all with the present tense. Everybody should know the present tense, and this is tends to be the tense that we begin with first. Okay? The present tense. When do we use the present tense? Let me go to my virtual students, and I'm just going to ask them quickly. I'm going to call on Jewel. Jewel, can you tell me when do you use the present tense?
When you're talking about something that's happening at the moment.
When you're talking about something that's happening at the present moment, okay? And it describes anything that happens regularly, okay? Now, I want us to make note of a very important point. In French, there is only one present tense, and it is used to say, I am speaking, I speak, or I do speak. So there's not a separation in French for the present tense. That one tense is used to translate either of those three tenses. So in English, it's a bit different, but in French, we have one present tense. In English, we have two. We have the present tense, which we refer to, which we would say, I speak. But if we want to say, I am speaking in the English, we do use the present continuous tense. So there's a slight difference between the two languages. Now I'm going to ask Bladley, because I'm going on to my second tense. The passé composé or the perfect tense. Okay, so we have the passé composé or the perfect tense. So Bladley, let me ask you this question. When do we use the perfect tense or the passé composé?
When we're talking about something in the past.
Okay, we use it to talk about something in the past, but can you be a little bit more specific? Because remember, we have other past tenses in French. So anybody else? Let me ask Amaya. Could you tell me something else that we need just to make this definition a little clearer?
We use it for completed actions in the past.
Excellent. We use it to describe actions that are in the past, but they must be completed actions. Okay? And it's an action that is completed and that is not happening now. For example, je suis allé à Paris. Who can tell me what that sentence means? Joel?
I went to Paris.
Okay, so maybe we can raise our hands virtually so I can see. But Bladley, can you give me your answer again? What does je suis allé à Paris mean?
I went to Paris.
I went to Paris. Is that action still taking place? Joel?
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Nathania, is that action going to happen?
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It already happened.
It already happened, and it is completed, it is done with. Okay? So the passé composé, we use it to describe events that have happened in the past, and they're completed and finished. Okay, we move on to the next tense, which is the imperfect tense. Now, the reason why I said to you it is important for you not to just say the passé composé is a past tense is because the imperfect tense is another past tense. Now, one of the uses of the imperfect tense is to describe an event, to make a description in the past. For example, the weather was fine. To translate this sentence, I would say, il faisait beau. And this means the weather was fine. However, if I want to describe, let's say, how long something had been happening, I can also use the imperfect tense. Okay? For example, ils habitent au Canada depuis 10 ans, which can be translated, they had been living in Canada for 10 years. Okay? So we also use the imperfect tense to express how long we had been doing something. Another use of the imperfect tense is for making excuses. Okay? This may not be a popular one, but it's something you can use especially in your exam, your directed situations. Okay? For example, ce n'était pas de ma faute. May I have a volunteer to assist me with the translation of this one? Let's try Natalia again. Ce n'était pas de ma faute. Is that clear? Do you need me to?
Miss,
Yes. Natalia, could you translate this sentence for me?
It is not my fault.
Could you repeat?
It is not my fault.
You said it is not my fault. Remember, we're using the imperfect tense. So let's try again. It was not my fault. It was not my fault. Okay, so be reminded that in the imperfect tense, you have to be careful. It's was and not is. It was not my fault. Okay, so we're going to move on. Another use of the imperfect tense is to describe something that used to happen regularly or frequently in the past. Par exemple, quand j'étais petite, j'allais chez mes grands-parents tous les week-ends. All right, I'm going to say it a little slower, and I'm going to ask Bladley to give me translate the first section of this for me, up until petite, and then I'm going to ask Amaya to do the last part. So listen carefully. Quand j'étais petite. Bladley?
yes, miss.
Could you translate that part of the sentence, please?
When I was small,
When I was small or when I was young?
when I was little.
Okay, that's correct. And the second section I'm asking Amaya. J'allais chez mes grands-parents tous les week-ends.
I used to go by my grandparents every weekend.
Excellent. Bing, 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 bing. Awesome, awesome. Bravo. Okay? That is excellent. So you see here with the j'allais, Amaya said, I used to go. Not I went, but I used to go. So the imperfect tense is used again to describe an action in the past that used to happen frequently or regularly. Okay? So we're going to move on very quickly to the future tense. Okay? The future tense. The future tense is a tense that is pretty simple because it talks about an action that has not happened as yet. It's an action that is going to happen or will happen. But there's a distinction in French. We have the immediate future. And this is used to talk about an action that is going to happen. Okay? And it is, the structure of this tense is to use the present tense of the verb aller followed by the infinitive. Par exemple, je vais étudier à l'université. À Paris. And I'm going to ask Joelle to attempt to translate this for me. Okay, the immediate future. Je vais étudier à l'université à Paris.
I am going to go to university in Paris.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I have brilliant students. I want to thank the teachers who have been working behind the scenes to prepare our students, and I'm thankful that you guys have been studying because you're giving me the correct answer. So I hope that is a source of encouragement for all of the other French students who are preparing for their exams in the upcoming weeks. All right, very good, Joel. The next tense you're going to look at is the future tense. Now, it is not very much different from the immediate future, but the construction is different. The future tense describes an event that will or shall happen. For example, I will get married when I'm 30 years old. Or you can say, I will go to the supermarket in the next 5 minutes. Okay? So we use it to talk about an action that will or shall happen. Par exemple, je vais travailler ici. Je vais travailler ici. Can I ask Natalia to translate that sentence? Je vais travailler ici. That's the immediate future. I'm going to give you another one for the future tense shortly.
Je vais travailler ici. I am going to work here.
Excellent.
I will work here.
Bravo. Good job. That's correct. So that is the immediate future when you use a part of the verb aller followed by the infinitive. Okay? Let's go to Amaya. Listen to this sentence, Amaya. Je discuterai du problème avec nous. Take your time with it. Je discuterai du problème avec nous. That sentence is making use of the future tense. Could you translate that for me, please?
I will listen to your problem.
Okay, the verb that you heard was discutere. What do you hear in that particular verb? Bladley.
Discuss.
To discuss. Discuter in French means to discuss. And we know when we add the ending AI to it, we get the future tense. Je discuterai means I will discuss the problem avec nous. Amaya, what does avec nous mean?
With us.
With us. Brilliant. Excellent. Okay, so are we understanding so far, guys? If so, can you give me a virtual thumbs up? Is there anything you need me to go over? Do you know how to do the thumbs up? Okay, Amaya is good. Nathania is good. Bladley?
Nathania.
Yes, Nathania. Okay, is everybody okay? It looks like everybody's on target. So the next tense you're going to look at is the conditional tense. Okay, the conditional tense. Now, the conditional tense. This tense is used to describe what would or should happen in certain circumstances. So I'll repeat. We use the conditional tense to talk about what should or would happen under certain circumstances. For example, si j'étais plus jeune, je courrais X kilomètres. So I'll write that for you. Si j'étais plus jeune, je courrais X, meaning it could be any figure, kilomètres. Okay? So, I'm going to ask Bladley to translate, the first part of this sentence, and then Joel will do the second part. And this is the conditional tense. All right, begin. Bladley, the first part for me, for us.
If I was smaller.
If I were smaller or younger. Very good.
Younger.
Joel, to the end.
I walk kilometers.
Remember, it's a conditional tense. and it describes what would or should happen.
I would run.
I just heard it. I would
Run.
I would run X kilometers. Very good. Very good. All right, so let's move on to the last tense, which is not really a tense, but a mood. Okay? And this is described as the subjunctive mood. How many of you have looked at that mood already? Let me see your hands virtually. Nobody? All right, so I'll be very brief with it. It's not really it's very good if you actually are able to master this particular mood and at least be able to identify it when you see it within your exam. So, first of all, the subjunctive mood. I first have to talk about the indicative mood. Now, the indicative mood is used to express an action which is a fact or is truth or statement. And that's where we make use of the other tenses that you would have been introduced to, such as the present tense, the passé composé, the future tense, the conditional tense. All these tenses are part or form part of the indicative mood because they're used to express statements that are factual and they are actually statements, right? That had happened or happened, that was happening or happens. However, the subjunctive mood is used to express an action which is dependent upon a subjective idea, opinion, or condition. In other words, when the statement made is contrary to fact, that means there's some sort of doubt or uncertainty about what is happening, or it is possible, the statement is possible but not probable, we use the subjunctive mood. So it is also used to describe action, feelings and emotions. It's used to express fear, doubt, wishes and wants. Okay? For example, the verb désirer. The verb désirer. The verb vouloir, which means to want. This is expressing what you desire. The verb désirer means to desire. For example, verbs like douter. This verb means to doubt. So once you have a verb that is expressing doubt or denial of something, I do not believe, that sort of thing, we use the subjunctive mood to express that. And general feelings such as I am happy, I am upset, I am angry, I am anxious, these emotions are expressed in French using the subjunctive mood. Okay, so the reason why we decided to go through the timeline of verbs is not so much to spend time on telling you or teaching you how to form them, because most students we find know how to form the verbs. The issue that we are finding is that you do not know when to use them. And that is why I took my time and I went through today's students when we use each verb. The present tense, the imperfect tense, the passé composé or the perfect tense, the conditional tense, the subjunctive mood, and there's one more tense that we should have looked at. It's the pluperfect tense. So I'm going to ask Bladley if he could help us. Just remind us, when do we use the pluperfect tense? Bladley. Not hearing you? Do I have any volunteers? Who remembers when we use the pluperfect tense?
We use the pluperfect tense to describe something that happened before something else happened.
Yes, excellent. If I could give you, I'm sending you a virtual hug. That is correct, and I'm super, super proud of you. We use the pluperfect tense in French to talk about or to describe an action that happened before another action. For example, we could probably say, I had gone or I had been. Let me write one on the board. Now I want to make note of some of the textbooks that you students should have or make use of. This one is it's key. It's called French Grammar for CSEC, a complete course. And the tenses, for example, can be found on page 74, where there's a reminder of the present tense. It gives you the formation and the usage as well. You also have the perfect tense or the passé composé. In addition, you have the imperfect tense, and then you have the pluperfect tense. For example, we had seen, nous avions vu. He had shaved, il s'était rasé. And just to remind you, the imperfect tense is formed by using the imperfect tense of the verb avoir or être, followed by the past participle. But I'm not going to go through all of that in detail, but I'm going to show you how it looks very, very quickly. Nous avions vu. We had seen. This is the verb. It's actually the verb avoir, which is in the imperfect tense. Okay? So the pluperfect tense is a compound tense. It's what we refer to as a compound tense, which means it is made up of two parts. Okay? The first part is the auxiliary or the helping verb. So if you cannot remember auxiliary, I tell my students the helping verb. You have the auxiliary verb and the past participle. Okay? Which means that this auxiliary verb is the verb avoir. And what tense do we put the verb avoir in again, Amaya? Can you remember what I said? What tense?
Imperfect.
In the imperfect tense. Very, very good. So it's important to know all of your tenses, students, because somewhere or the other, they are used to form other tenses and other expressions. You can be used interchangeably, okay? So it's important that you know your tenses and know when to use them. Another resource book or text that I know we're currently using is the Tricolor, Book 4. So all fifth formers and fourth formers should have this text. It is an invaluable text. Take some time to read through it, especially at the back where we have our grammar and useful expressions. It gives you irregular verbs. Everything that you need is here in a concise way to help you when you're preparing for your exams. The next important text that I would love to encourage you to study is this little book here. It is a French vocabulary builder, and it contains a variety of vocabulary that is pertinent to you preparing for your CSEC exams. And the good thing about it, or what I really like about it, is the way in which the vocabulary is broken down into different themes. So you have a section on classroom language, maybe numbers, dates and times, shopping, home and family themes. You have a section on verbs. You have a section on hobbies and shopping. So once you spend some time, maybe every day, spending at least, learning at least 5 to 10 words, you will be amazed at the amount of vocabulary that you can learn even within the next 6 to 7 weeks before your exam. Okay? All right, so we are almost finished. But I also want to highlight one other thing in this particular book, the French Grammar for CSEC. There's a section on page 105 which speaks about the verbal idioms. These are verbs which need special attention because they do not follow the regular pattern. So I'm advising you to have a look at this particular book and to go to this particular page and see if you can study some of the verbs here. For example, it will give you the difference between the verb essayer and the verb essayer de, okay? And the difference between jouer à and jouer de, which means to play a sport versus to play an instrument. So these are key nuances that students like yourself need to be aware of in order to negotiate your exam as best as you can so that you all can be successful. And we all want you to be successful, right? Okay. Now, I have some situations. In order for you to be able to excel at the exam, you must be able to answer the situations whether it's in the oral exam or the paper too. So for example, Joel, if you have a situation which says, in an email, your pen pal asks you one thing you would like to do during the holidays and why. I'll repeat. And everybody think about an answer. In an email, your pen pal asks you one thing you would like to do during the holidays and why. I would like you, Joel, to tell me what tense or verb or verbs would you use? I don't want the full answers yet. Just tell me what tense you would use to respond to this situation and what verb you would use.
The immediate future and the verb to like, him.
The immediate future. So you're going to say, I am going to. Your friend asks you one thing you would like to do during the holidays, and you want to use the immediate future. Are you sure? Can you check that again?
For the imperfect tense.
Not quite. Let me see if Nathaniel can help you. I'll read the situation again. In an email, your pen pal asks you one thing you would like to do during the holidays and why. Can you tell me what tense you could possibly use as well as a possible verb or expression? What jumps out at you?
Okay, so the verb would be aller.
Aller?
Yeah.
Okay, that can work. And what tense?
The tense may be the conditional.
Okay, that I can agree. So let's use that answer you gave me, Amaya. We're going to use the conditional tense. One very popular expression I know all of you know is the expression je voudrais. How many of us know this one? Je voudrais.
Yeah.
And it means I would like to. And it is always followed by the infinitive. So for example, a possible answer could be je voudrais faire une excursion au forêt parce que j'adore la nature. Do you want me to say that again? I will. Je voudrais faire une excursion. You could use aller, but I'm using the verb faire une excursion au forêt parce que j'adore la nature. I'm going to write it so you can see it. Je voudrais faire une excursion au forêt parce que j'adore la nature. Bladley, could you translate the first part of this sentence for me, please? Up to forêt.
Je voudrais
In English, could you translate it for us?
I would like
to
do.
Who know the expression faire une excursion means to go on an excursion. To go on an excursion. So let's go again from the top. Je voudrais, again.
I would like to do an excursion.
What does au forêt mean, correct? To the forest. To the forest. Parce que j'adore la nature. Could I ask Natalia to help me with this part? Parce que j'adore la nature. What does that part of the sentence translate to?
Because I love nature.
Because I love nature or I like nature. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Let's move on. The second person I'm going to ask to respond to this question, Amaya. Listen to the situation. Just respond and tell me what tense you would use to answer, as well as the verb. Okay? You are a sports reporter covering a match, some sort of football game, for example, which came to an abrupt end. In your newspaper report, give 2 reasons for such an end. Your sports reporter covering a match which came to an abrupt end. Please give, in your newspaper report, 2 reasons for such an end. What tense would you use and what verb could you possibly use?
I would use the verb et, to be, and the imperfect tense.
Okay, the verb, okay. I accept that, that's correct. I'm very, very happy that you said the imperfect tense. So we would use the imperfect tense. All right, so the answer that I have is il pleuvait. Il pleuvait, which means it was raining, et je me suis cassé la jambe. I broke my leg. Okay? These are 2 good reasons why the football game would have had to come to an end. It was raining, so it couldn't continue, and you broke your leg. So you actually could use the imperfect tense as well as the passé composé. Okay? And if you noted, the passé composé was used with a reflexive verb. Je me suis cassé. Are we following? And I'm sure you would have been taught how to use this particular construction with reflexive verbs. All right, so I have one more situation and then we will wrap up. I'm going to ask Bladley. Listen to this one carefully. An exchange student from France is to attend your school this year. Send him or her an email stating 2 school rules. A French student is going to be coming to your school on an exchange program, and they're from France. Send him or her an email stating 2 school rules. What tense would you use or what construction could you use?
The present tense.
Yes, you could use the present tense, that's correct. Is there any particular expression you could use? Let's say you want to... Could you repeat that? Could you repeat that, please? Okay, well, you said the present tense.
Yeah,
okay, I didn't hear that response clearly, but I'm going to give you a response that you could use. Yes, in the present tense. You could use the expression il faut, which means it is necessary. It is necessary that you, for example, il fait porter un uniforme. It is necessary that you wear uniform. Sometimes in the European countries, it's not a popular tradition for them to wear uniform sometimes, maybe for the private schools, but generally they don't. So you will tell them in the Caribbean, in Antigua, il faut porter un uniforme. Okay? And you could also use the expression il est interdit de. How many of us know this expression? It is forbidden that. Forbidden that. Yeah, il est interdit de. Yeah, il est interdit de. Fumer. So it is prohibited. So basically, smoking is prohibited at school. Smoking is prohibited. Il est interdit de fumer à l'école. So in this expression, you may decide to use a different verb, but the expression here is the one that I need you to use. It is forbidden that you smoke at school. Okay? And it is always followed by the infinitive. Okay? So this verb that comes after der can change, but this is the expression that you would definitely get your marks for. All right? And just as we wrap up, I want to remind you that in addition to knowing your verbs, you must memorize and practice vocabulary. If you do not have the words to communicate or express yourselves, there's nothing you can really do in the exam. So here are some main vocabulary themes for CSEC. You know that we have 6 main themes. The first one is home and family, and you can get vocabulary in this same text that I referred to earlier. On page 17, there is vocabulary on the family, the different family members, la mère, le père, l'oncle, la tante, etc. And on page 33, you can find information on the home, which describes different parts of your home, your bedroom, your kitchen, your living room, your basement, etc. Then the second topic for CXC is school and career. And you can find information on school on page 143. And then you can find information on career on page 95. Okay, it's entitled At Work. It has a list of careers that you can learn. Try and avoid the popular ones like professor and médecin, etc. Try and get a little bit adventurous. For example, you can use journalist, you can use secrétaire, vétérinaire, etc. Try and learn some that are different. Also, daily routine. You can find some useful vocabulary for daily routine in this same text on page 38. So, students, I'm asking you to make a note of it because it would be easier for you to remember. Okay? Daily routine can be found on page 38. You have a host of reflexive verbs. For example, se rasser, se laver, se brosser les dents, which means to brush one's teeth, etc. We're coming to the end. Vocabulary on travel can be found on page 66, okay? And also the countries, different countries that you can travel to can be found on page 58 in this same text. Shopping is the next CXC theme that you must be prepared to answer. And information on the different types of shops and what they sell can be found on page 55, page 55, okay? And clothing items can be found on page 58. Finally, the last theme for CXC that you need to be able to negotiate on the exam is sports and recreation. You can find vocabulary that is pertinent to this topic on page 27 as well as page 30. Okay? Learning vocab groups such as clothing, transportation, food will help you to express yourself both orally and in written form, and also to comprehend or understand both listening and reading short messages, announcements, scenarios, and dialogues related to these themes. So it's important not only that you know your verbs and the different tenses, but also that you know pertinent and key vocabulary. And if you don't deposit the words into your memory, you will not be able to do any withdrawals, okay? So sometimes you're going to be in the exam and you're killing yourself to find out a word, but you never really put it there. So students, I'm encouraging you to study, get adequate rest, eat well, eat balanced meals, go to bed early, give Facebook, WhatsApp, all the other social media, Twitter, Instagram, give them a break for now because you have this one shot at doing the best that you can do on this exam, and just apply yourself. And if you have a spiritual relationship, trust in your God to take you through. And I encourage you guys, you can do an amazing job on this exam. I know you are prepared. I believe in you. We all believe in you. And just before I go, I would like to encourage you students and the viewing and listening audience to like our Facebook page, French Teachers of Antigua and Barbuda. And here you'll be able to receive news on activities and events that we are currently having or will have. And so that you can see we have an active association to promote the needs of the French language and culture here in Antigua and Barbuda. So until our second session, which will happen very soon with another teacher, bon chance et au revoir. I hope that this lesson was beneficial to you, and all the best in your exams. Bye.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
À plus tard.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
À bientôt.
You've been watching Homeschool 101, a partnership between ABS Television and the Ministry of Education. Thank you for viewing this lesson. Join us again next time.